Today, we're going to be answering a question that I get from my business owner clients all the time. And that is, how do I continue to build wealth while running my business? It's an age-old question and dilemma for business owners. They're working hard, they understand their business, but oftentimes they're even running a successful business and they just don't have a lot saved for retirement. And that is all fine and great if you can sell your company for a lot of money, but that's just not how things work out in a lot of cases. And sometimes it's nicer to diversify a little bit and invest in other areas. Even this morning, I was talking to a business owner and he came to me and said, Carter, me and my wife both run our own successful businesses. We're making lots of money, but you would laugh at us if you knew how much we had saved for retirement. He said that they've basically been pouring all their money into their business and then occasionally going out and splurging on certain things. And so they just don't have a lot left at the end of the day, and they really have not given a lot of thought. Some of the helpful tips and tricks that I've found for building wealth while you're still running and building a successful business. The first thing is to make sure you're paying yourself. I think that's kind of the golden rule of business is, I've heard it said before, pay yourself first. And what that means is a couple of different things. The first one is you got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Running a business requires sacrifice. Oftentimes, you're going to need to put your employees' needs before you. I think that just comes with the territory of being a good business owner. But you need to save for retirement. You need to make sure that you're not running out of money. And oftentimes, if you sacrifice too much, there's nothing left at the end of the day and your business will start to go downhill. So take care of yourself first. At least make sure that you're paying yourself enough to get by. And then every single paycheck, even if it's just a little, be putting some money into retirement. The best way to do this is usually to establish a company-sponsored retirement plan. If you're working by yourself and you're self-employed, a solo 401k can be a great way to do so. You have a lot of flexibility on how much money you put in. If you have a good year, you can pump a bunch of money into the plan. If you have a bad year, you maybe don't have to make a solo 401k contribution. You can choose whether you're going to make those contributions in Roth, meaning that it's tax-free for the rest of your life and you pay with after-tax money, or pre-tax and you save on taxes while you're making lots of money in your business. That's going to be your saving grace, especially if the business doesn't work out. In today's environment, there are so many risks for business owners, whether that be AI, legislation risk, other things like that. It's not a guarantee that if you operate this business for another 15 years, you're going to be able to sell it for millions of dollars. So taking some of your profits today, pouring it in towards your own retirement will help save you in the event that something happens and your business doesn't pan out the way that you hoped it would. And you don't want to get to 65 and have nothing saved for retirement, have a business that's not very successful, and now you are in trouble because you still have to work the rest of your life. The second way I see to build wealth is probably something that most business owners are very acquainted with, and that is reinvesting in your business. The truth that a lot of financial advisors and investment managers don't say is the highest return on investment, if you run a successful business, is probably going to be in your business. If you can take $1,000 and put that back into your business and turn it into $3,000, that's a really good return on investment. It would take years, probably decades, to be able to do that in the stock market. That's a unique opportunity that most business owners have if they're running a successful business, is that every dollar they pour into that business is going to get a much higher growth rate than if they just invested it elsewhere. A lot of times, the business owners I work with, they feel most comfortable because they know their business, they know it inside and out, they know the return on investment for every dollar that they put back into it. And so I'm okay with saying you maybe are investing less than the engineer that's on a W-2 salary because you're investing into your business, which is how you really, really build long-term extreme wealth in a lot of cases. The third way that I see business owners build substantial wealth is through business exits. That is what you see in the news when a business owner builds a successful business, hires a team, scales it to 6 figures, multiple millions of dollars of revenue, and actually has a business that's worth something. And they turn around and they sell it to a competitor, they sell it to a private equity firm, or to some internal employees. That's how a lot of business owners make money. That's how a lot of the extreme wealth here in America is actually made, is through business. So if you're running a business and it's a business that has some value as a business itself, that's where you can make a ton of money. But the key is you kind of have to build a business that can run without you. This is the hard part. This is what I call the practitioner's dilemma. That basically means that you need to be able to have the business run without you being a part of it. And the truth is, most small business owners are critical to the operational part of their business. If they took a month off and just disappeared and never showed up again, the business would burn to the ground. If you want to sell and exit your business, you need to build a business that you can step away from 6 months or for a year, and it will run perfectly fine. So that's the practitioner's dilemma, is when you are so integral to your business that you really cannot step away. That's the hardest part of a small business, is figuring out how to get it from you being the key person in that business to the business being self-sustainable. Once you get there, that's when you are primed to be able to sell. If you're going to sell, I highly recommend starting that process 3 to 5 years before you actually want to exit. If I want to sell my business in 5 years, today I should start getting key employees together, figuring out if anybody in my current business is willing to step in and take over, and I can start showing them the ropes so I can sell that business in 3 years and maybe stay on for 2 years to train them up on how to actually operate and manage that business for when I'm fully out. It's also important, if you're going to be selling to a competitor or a private equity firm, you really need to start getting things like your books in order and making sure that that business can run without you, and hiring the key employees to run that business even when you're not. And so I typically recommend you start your exit planning about 3 to 5 years before you actually exit that business, and maybe look at getting a business valuation to kind of see what it's going to be worth. And what you would get if you sold it to somebody else. Another common way that I see business owners build wealth while running a business is actually to invest in other opportunities. As a business owner, most business owners are wired in a way that they're looking for opportunities. They're really good at discovering those opportunities and then pursuing them with the resources that they've already built up. If you're a business owner, you're already in a unique position where you understand your industry. You understand what your pain points are, what you need, who you're paying the most amount of money to. I see oftentimes where a business owner is running their primary business, it's successful, they're growing it, but they have an other opportunity that comes up that maybe they could branch off into. And maybe not pivot the entire company, but they could still branch off and start another division or start another company. And that's very common with serial entrepreneurs. What you find out is most of them did not wake up one day and say, this is a brand new idea in a completely different direction that I'm going to head towards. Many times they have their primary business, and then something comes up here where they didn't receive the level of service, or there was a product that was not functioning the way that they wanted it to. And they said, I can build this, or I can do this in a better manner and serve myself and my team as well as other people like me better. And so that is a great way to continue to build wealth, is to look for other opportunities. The key is make sure you're not losing focus and you're just chasing the next shiny object. You have to be tactical. You have to understand that you don't want to kill your golden goose, which is your main business. And that's something that I do find a lot of serial entrepreneurs run into, is they forget what made them successful and what got them to where they are today. And they're just chasing the next shiny object. If you have the resources, the time, and the risk tolerance to go after it, I'm not opposed to opening a new company or adding a new service line. And so expanding your business can be very helpful. Another thing that I find business owners run into is they're not diversifying properly. They have all of their eggs in one basket, and that basket is their business. They plan to make all their money from their business. They plan to retire from their business sale, and everything is tied to that one thing. With the way that this world is going and the advancements in AI, you never know that in 5 to 10 years, your industry might look completely different. And the best way to protect against that is to diversify a little bit. Now, I'm not saying to completely diversify away from your business. Oftentimes, you do get the highest return on investment by reinvesting in your company. Now, good ways to do that as a business owner. Number one, maybe buy some real estate. If you're renting your own office, oftentimes it's not a bad idea to go out and purchase an office as yourself on the personal side, and then have your company rent back from you or to you, and you're able to get some consistent cash flow from your business, and now you own a real estate asset, which hopefully is not as correlated to your business or industry. The second one is to maybe look at other industries. If you're a serial entrepreneur and you're comfortable with opening and operating multiple businesses, oftentimes I would look into expanding into other business avenues that aren't quite as closely correlated to your primary business that you're working in. I'm a big fan of having different types of retirement account. That could look like a Roth IRA. That could look like a traditional IRA, a solo 401k. It could also look like a taxable investment account, which is typically the most liquid, easily accessible. You should also have probably 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses on hand. And so having a balance sheet that looks like a well-diversified pie is very, very important. And then I like to have the liquid bucket. That will include cash. That will include checking account, money market, all that fun stuff. And then potentially a taxable brokerage account where they can still be investing, maybe dollar cost average into the market over time. So I like to have a liquid piece, a retirement piece, a physical assets piece, and then the business piece. And I think that is a very well diversified pie. You're probably not gonna get it all in 1 year, but that's something to work towards. And as you make those important critical business decisions of where does the next dollar go to, that's one of those things that I always go back to when making the decision of where do I invest that next dollar. So those are just a few of the ways that I see my business owners commonly be able to build wealth while still building, maintaining, and operating their successful business. As a business owner, you have so many opportunities that come your way. It's one of the best things in the entire world to be a business owner. It affords you so many opportunities and so much responsibility that you really don't get elsewhere. So if you're a business owner and you find this type of content helpful, hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment down below if there's any other topics you'd like for us to talk about. Once again, I'm Carter Shaffer, a certified financial planner that works mostly with business owners, and I will catch you on the next video.